Welcome back to the channel. On this episode I'm going to show you how to install a diesel heater into your camper van conversion. This is a 12 volt 5000 watt diesel heater. That means you can run this off your leisure batteries in your camper van. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to find a location to put this diesel heater, because you have to drill holes through the van and then run some piping down through the floor. That means you need to find a location where there's no beams running across the van, under the floor of the van. That will then allow you to drill your holes down through the van and get your piping through the van. So let's go hunting for a spot to see where we can put this diesel heater. So before we start the install, I'm going to talk you through what came in the box with the diesel heater. It came in 3 parts and it also had a lovely manual. Didn't look at that at all. There we have a 10 litre diesel tank that you secure to the inside of the van with the 3 screws. And in the diesel tank you have a diesel outlet that you're supposed to fit yourself to the side or the bottom of the diesel tank, whatever way you decide. And then in this box you have the fuel hose, you have the air outlet hose, you have the air intake hose, then you have the exhaust pipe and you have the muffler of the exhaust pipe. Then you have the heat shield plate, hot air outtake, you have the Jubilee clips, absolutely rubbish, get rid of them. Then you have the electrics, you have the muffler for the air intake or the air filter. Then you have that's to hold the diesel pump. These Jubilee clips are absolutely useless. I totally recommend getting new ones, buy better ones, and you'll realise it when you go to actually install them. They're absolutely useless, guaranteed. Don't use them, not the small ones anyway. And then here is the actual diesel heater itself and the fuel pump. You've got some cable ties and that's basically it. Oh yeah, there's the control panel with the keyring switch and on off, plus minus, simple as. There's the diesel pump, great looking pump. The diesel heater is here, she's a fine looking heater. And then we have the exhaust out and the air intake in. Then we have written on the side 12 volt blah blah blah. So because I have so much stuff on the driver's side of the van, I've got the water heater in there and I have the two-way manifold and I've got the plumbing for the sink. So there's a lot of stuff on this side of the van, and that means that if I was to put the diesel heater in here, it's too cramped. So I don't think I'll be able to get it onto the driver's side of the van. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to get it onto the passenger side of the van. So where I was thinking was maybe down here inside the wardrobe. So that's the wardrobe there. I will be doing a vlog on that if you want to know how I built the wardrobe. If it doesn't fit here in the wardrobe, what I was thinking of doing was to build a permanent bench there and make it the width, so from the side wall to the edge of the wardrobe. And then that means that would fit there perfectly. So what I've got to do now is I've got to get under the van and I want to see if I can actually fit the diesel heater into the wardrobe, that area I've just showed you in the wardrobe. So I'm going to get under the van, just have a quick look to see if I think it'll fit, and then take it from there, drill out the holes and then get to work. The problem is I'm not entirely sure where this is going to land once I drill through the floor of the van, so I've tried to work it out, but the best thing to do is just to drill through with the 3mm drill bit that I have here, and that will then allow me to go under the van and see exactly where it's going to land. So this might or it might not work, and you won't know really until you drill through in some cases. Okay, so I've gone under the van and I've checked to see where that drill bit has come down through the van, and unfortunately I can't see where it's come through the van, so it's gone into a cross beam somewhere, and that means that I've got to know what I'm going to do is I'm going to reverse this, because I really want to put it in here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to reverse it and put the flue on this side. Hopefully it is just a cross beam that I've drilled into, and that would mean then that I can still put the diesel heater in here if I switch it around. So let's drill that on this side. So I think this is going to be the longest part of the actual install, is trying to figure out exactly where to put the diesel heater. Right, so I've drilled 2 holes, and what I've discovered is that it's actually going right beside a beam, and it's too close to the wheel, and you've got like the suspension under there, directly under there. So there's no room really for the piping because you're drilling too close to a beam. So what I've got to do is, I want the diesel heater central enough in the van. That's why I chose to put it in the wardrobe. So what I'll do is take out this seat, put in the diesel heater there, and then build a permanent seat around the diesel heater with a lid on it, the exact same. But what I'll do is run it all the ways to the wardrobe and then to the side wall here. As you can see, this is a freestanding seat, and the lid comes off, so that means that I've got to take this out, and then I'll put the diesel heater in here running this way, and then the hot air will come out the side of the seat. So that's what I'm going to do now, and I know it's a bit of a ball ache, but at least it means that I've got the diesel heater in the center of the van, and it means that, like, I could put it in the back of the garage area. Then you have to run the pipe from the back all the way through here to try and get the air into the main living area of the van. So I think this way it's going to be easier. Okay, so let's remove the seat, the one-legged table, and then install the diesel heater right here beside the wardrobe. Mark out the circles on the heat shield with a marker. So this is the drill bit that I'll be using. It's a 35mm HSS, which is hardened stainless steel, I think. So it's good for cutting through the floor of the van. Oh. Battle scars. I was trying to get out the piece of wood out of the drill bit, and I was poking it with the screwdriver, and it slipped, and then I scraped it all off the edge of the actual drill bit. So I must go in and clean that up before we carry on. A quick tip when you're drilling: to drill down through the wood, which is the first layer, because then you have the insulation before that. But then stop, take the drill out, and then you can remove that piece of wood with your screwdriver by just popping your screwdriver in like that, and then out pops the piece of wood. Otherwise, if you keep drilling down through the floor, then what happens is this piece of wood gets lodged at the very bottom of the drill bit, and that means then that you have to actually take the drill bit off the whole drill and start poking and prodding at it, and then that's when you cut yourself. So that's just a tip. I'm going to use this 22mm drill bit to drill out for the fuel hose. The heat shield will be secured to the diesel heater with these 4 bolts, and those 4 bolts run below the floor of the van. I have this hole saw. It's an 83mm hole saw, and it's just about gonna fit. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna lay this on the floor, mark it out with the marker where these 4 holes are, and then place the hole saw on the floor. That will give me an eye of where I need to place the hole saw. Let's see if that works. What I would recommend is using a larger hole saw. I didn't have a large one at this time because everywhere was closed, but I'd recommend around a 4-inch hole saw. And then once you have your hole cut, you can then sand and hammerite the holes that you've cut into the floor of the van. This is very important to do because you don't want to damage any of the piping going through the floor of the van. So here's the fuel pump, and this is the electric connection that I will be dropping outside the van to connect to the fuel pump. Next we have the Jubilee clips. I strongly recommending at least the small ones, they're very poor quality. Next, grab your heat shield, place it to the bottom of the diesel heater. But before that, make sure to drop in the electric connection for the diesel pump that will be under the van. You're going to connect that to. Then you want to secure the heat shield to the base of the diesel heater using the supplied bolts. Then once you have the heat shield secured to the base of the diesel heater, then you want to install the 2 outlet pipes. One was the air intake pipe and one was the exhaust pipe. Secure them with the new Jubilee clips you bought. I didn't over tighten the Jubilee clip on the exhaust pipe because when you're under the van you need to find a spot for the exhaust pipe, and then you need to go back in and re-tighten that Jubilee clip. Right, so the next thing to do is the kit comes with this black rubber pipe. It also comes with these clips, so there's lots of those little clips in this bag here, and those clips are for this pipe. So slide the clip on to the black pipe like so. This is the fuel inlet. Put this on here like so. So where my finger is where you want to cut that. Then you want to put that on with the clip on over it. Push it down. That clip will keep that in place. And then what you want to do is get your fuel hose. Put the clip on over the hose, the fuel hose. And then I'm going to push this down and make sure that it touches the actual tip of the fuel pipe inlet. That's it. So you don't want to leave any gap. And then you're going to slide this back down. So now you have the air intake pipe, which is the black one. You have the exhaust pipe, which is going to pump out the fumes out of the van. And then you have your fuel pipe, which is going to supply fuel to the diesel heater. And then we have the electric connection for the pump, the fuel pump, which will be underneath the van. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop them up down through the holes that are in the van. So because my hole saw wasn't large enough, I had to drill extra holes in order for the diesel heater to lay flat on the floor. So what I'd recommend is getting a larger hole saw. 4 inches, around 4 inches should do the job, and that will save you from drilling more holes. The next thing I have to do is to install the fuel line. This is going to be going this way on the side of the wardrobe, so the outlet for the fuel line is going to come out here. It all comes in this pack. Take out this part. So this is the part that's going to go on the inside, like so. So once you have the hole drilled, it'll go like this. And then what you have is you have these 2 rubber seals. So one has to go on the inside, so that will go like this on the inside. The other one will go on the outside, and then this nut screw in like so from the outside. This nut will tighten it from the outside, and the plastic will be in the middle. I've seen people use this 8mm drill bit. If I use this 8mm drill bit, that means that you're then drilling out for those threads. What I'd like to do is I'd like to be able to thread this in. So what I want to do is I want to use a drill bit that this tip of the actual fuel outlet will actually pop through the plastic, and then once this tip pops through the plastic, then with the pliers from the outside I can actually get a pliers and I can twist it and then thread the rest of this through the actual diesel heater. So again, I think if I do it that way, it's got less of a chance of leaking. I'm going to use this 6mm drill bit. A good tip I found was to use a hanger when you want to install the diesel outlet valve into the diesel tank. So what you do is you place the diesel outlet valve onto the tip of a hanger, and then you place the hanger through the top spout of the diesel tank. So now this is threading in. So what I had to do was, with this 6mm drill bit, I had to kind of widen it until you're able to thread it by hand. So make sure that the nozzle goes in straight into the plastic, not at an angle, otherwise you've got more of a risk of a leak. So as you can see, I'm able to hand tighten this, screw it in, look, like so, and I'm hoping then from the inside I can then screw it back out. So I'm just creating the thread now, like so, and then that means it'll be far easier when I put it back in and pop it out, because that thread will be there. Remember to put on your rubber seal. And then that will seal it from the inside. Okay, there it is. So as you can see, it's popped out there at the end. And now I can take the hanger out. If I give it a hold on to it here, and then I should be able to take the hanger out. There we go. Take the hanger out. Hold on to this. Make sure it doesn't go anywhere. Now I should be able to twist this by hand into the threads that I've already threaded, like so. Threading the diesel outlet valve, you'll know you've reached the end when you see the black washer on the inside. That's really solid there now, because I've threaded that into the plastic. That means that this really shouldn't leak, because like there's no movement in that, and it's threaded right through the plastic. So the next thing to do is put on your rubber seal on the outside, and then on top of that you put your locking nut, and then squeeze it hand tight and just give it a few turns after that. Should be fine. That now is the fuel line out from the diesel tank is now installed. Because I've threaded the outlet into the plastic and there's a seal on either side, that should really not leak, so fingers crossed. Next, connect the fuel filter to the diesel pump with the black hose that came with the kit, and use the clips that came with the kit to then secure the black hose. So the next thing to do is to drill a hole for this black rubber piping. The fuel line will run from the diesel tank, and I have to drill a hole down through the ground, and it has to be this thickness because I want to protect the diesel line within this black rubber pipe, because it's running through the floor of the van, which is metal. Obviously I don't want the fuel line, which is that white clear plastic, I don't want that getting damaged or getting cut on the floor of the van. So even though it will be filed down and it'll be coated with hammerite, so I'm going to drill that hole now. So now I'm going to cut this black pipe here and then feed the fuel line through this black pipe. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it out and I'll run it through the black pipe. Now you could also use one of these pliers, just grab it here at the end and then pull it through. As you can see, I have a good bit now pulled through, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to feed it down through the hole like so, and then from the pop this down because that's going to protect it. I'm just going to go underneath the van and see if I've got enough length of the fuel pipe under it, fuel hose. There was loads of fuel line under the van, and now I'm just securing the exhaust pipe to the side of the van. It was a tight squeeze, but I managed to record some of it for you and hopefully it will help you. There we go. So I just used the clip that came with the van and I actually straightened it out so I could then bolt it to the side of the van. Then with the air intake, I secured that to the underside of the van as far away from the exhaust pipe as possible. So now that I have everything almost complete under the van, I've got the air intake pipe secured, I've got the exhaust secured to the side of the van, and I've got the fuel pump secured. And now I'm going to secure the diesel heater to the floor of the van. I left it till the end because if you do it early on, well then I popped the electric cable for the fuel pump. I slotted that through the holes and I slotted an extra bit because I didn't know where I was going to be placing the fuel pump under the van. Then when I connected the electric cable to the fuel pump, I realized that there was a good bit extra cable underneath the van, so then I wanted to pull that back in because that means then I've got extra cable to play around with inside the van rather than having it hanging down under the van. You'll know what I mean if you when you're trying it yourself. Here's what came with the kit. So you have this long red cable and then your black cable. Two of these run to your fuse box, but the problem is that the black one is very short, as you can see. So what I've got to do is I've got to extend this black cable to the fuse box at the back. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut it here. So I have to run them all through the back of the wardrobe. So what I'll do, I think, is drill a hole in there. Let's see. Yeah, drill a hole in there, in here, then run them all here, then out through the wardrobe there, and then through the back here. So now I'm under the van here, and as you can see, I drilled the 3 holes. So we have one hole is the exhaust, right, and that runs down through the van, and then we have the air intake hose here, and you have to keep them separate, as in you can't have them side by side because you don't want to be taking in the fumes from the exhaust pipe. So that's why I ran the air intake hose and I connected it here well away from the exhaust, which is over there, so that's well clear of each other. And then what I did was I put the fuel pump and the fuel filter at a 45-degree angle there, kind of at a 45-degree angle, and that is running down from, it's running down through that hole there, and I had to run it down through that hole because it was the best place within inside the van. So I managed to get it through that hole, and it's secured in place with the black rubber hose to protect it. And then, as you can see, that runs into fuel filter, and then we've got that. You have your fuel pump. Oh yeah, and then I also, what I did was I dropped down this hookup, the electric hookup for the pump. I dropped that down with the fuel line and the exhaust and the air intake. I dropped them all down together, and what I did was I left a lot of slack on this. That's another reason why I didn't secure the diesel heater to the floor of the van, and I left that till the end. So because there was a lot of slack on this electric hookup, I was then able to bring it back into the inside of the van, and because I didn't want anything hanging down. So it's all nice and neat there. And then you can see where the fuel line is then running here and going into the diesel heater. So that's a basic rundown of my setup here. And then you can see here I've got the exhaust pipe running out to the side of the van. Let's go inside now and see if we can fire her up. Yep. I've just spent the last 10-15 minutes trying to figure out why the hell this thing wasn't working. So I'm going to show you why it didn't work when it should have worked first time around. A stupid, simple little thing to watch out for, but just so you know, so when you're hooking it up, you don't make the same mistake. What I did wrong was, oh, this is a stupid thing, I should have spotted this straight away, but you see this small little slit here? See that small little indentation? Well, as you can see, I didn't get it right because that's where I put the indentation, but I should have lined that up with the arrow. So there's an arrow there and then an arrow there. So what you do is, when you're putting this together, make sure those two arrows line up, and when they line up, that's when you get power. But like I did, I just jammed them together. So remember, don't do what I did and jam them together, because then it doesn't work. You actually have to line it up and then stick them together. The first thing we're going to do before we turn on the actual diesel heater and run it is to prime it, and that will flush out any air that's in the system. That's important to do, otherwise I don't think it works. You might get lucky. So let's prime it, and what we do here is settings, down, then up. There we go. So you have to hold down the settings, and then while you're holding settings, press the down arrow. That initiates the prime, and then you press the up arrow. So now listen to the pump. That's priming right now. I think it's getting any air out of the system. As you can hear, the pump is now stopped, so the priming is now complete. The next thing to do is to fire up the diesel heater and see if it works. So now the fuel pump has stopped priming, and you can see that the filter actually has diesel in it, so that means that the priming is now complete, and we can go in and then start her up. So then, to stop the priming, you press the down arrow, and then start her up. So there it is, you can see the fan spinning. The fan came on first, and then you had the fuel pump. The bottom of the left hand corner is the fuel pump. So that means now that the fuel is being pumped in to the diesel heater. So let's pop outside and let's have a look under the van, and I'll show you the fuel pump. You can hear now it's actually, this is making more noise, so that means that the combustion engine in it is getting fired up due to the diesel being pumped into it. As you can see, So it's quite smoky starting off, but I think that dies down after a bit. So the fuel filter is full. Now all the line is full of diesel running up into the heater. So here we are back inside, and now we've got hot air. So we have hot air in the van. This is class. That's now the diesel heater installed into the van. I now have lovely hot air from the diesel heater. I still have to figure out how to work it, but what I'll do is I'll spend some time, figure it out, and then at a later date I will do a video on it and I will show you the rundown of how the controls work. As of right now, I'm getting hot air in the van, so I'm really happy. What I'm going to do tomorrow or the day after is I will seal the holes that I've made in the van with some heat resistant Evo stick. I used it for installing the heat shields around the 2-burner hob. The next thing to do is to build a permanent seating area here and replace the one that I took out. So actually it's probably going to be better, because it means that I'm going to use all the space here instead of just dropping in a pre-made seat. What I'll do is I'll put a heat shield here between the diesel tank and the actual diesel heater, just in case there's any like heat coming off the diesel heater. Where I plan to put this will be just around here, and the reason I want it there is because when you wake in the morning from the bed, you can reach over, switch on the heater, and then get the van nice and toasty. So I'm looking forward to that. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. I hope you find it useful. It gives you some ideas and some tips when you're installing your own diesel heater. If you liked the episode, please do give it a like, and also subscribe to the channel. And I've also got an ebook. I've got a free ebook on my top 3 tips on converting a van. They're only very basic tips. The ebook is all the stuff that I had to go through to start my van build, so I'm hoping that it'll help you to get started and give you some ideas on what to think about getting started with your van build. So if that's something you'd be interested in, just click the link in the description or up here somewhere, and that'll bring you through to the free ebook, and hopefully it'll help you out with your van build. And until next time, mind yourself. Good luck.